and welcome to BQ Conversations. My guest today is Chairman of Aditya Birla Group, Mr. Kumar Mangaram Birla. Mr. Birla, thank you very much for joining us on Bloomberg Quint. A $2.6 billion acquisition, and that sets up Hindalco for the next big leap. Can you just take us through what kind of synergies this acquisition will have for the Hindalco and Novelis combined?
So, Hindalco's stated position, stated ambition has always been to increase the share of value-added products in its overall portfolio. And Novelis was a step in that direction 11 years ago. Aleris is another step in that direction, except that it gives access to even newer verticals like aero, like building and construction, and deepens Novelis' presence in sectors like auto, which are very important for Novelis' growth.
Yeah,
we're talking about synergies in terms of IT, in terms of SG&A, supply chain. We're also talking about significant synergies between the two assets that the companies have on the Asian side, which is in China. Both have complementary assets close to each other, which will again give Novelis a very strong foothold in the fastest growing market in the world for this product line. So all of these put together, you also have financial savings of about $150 million per annum on a recurring basis. All of these put together, I believe, make for a very compelling acquisition.
11 to 12 years ago when you did Novelis, it was one of the big acquisition, and over a period of time, it has proven right for you, that strategy of going across and getting Novelis so that you expand your global reach. Now Novelis is acquiring it on its balance sheet with no recourse to the Hindalco balance sheet. Is this a bigger game plan within the group of going into flat value-added products, going into areas downstream which are not, exposed to LME prices?
Absolutely. I think it's very clear. It's a strategy of getting into more and more value-added products. You have higher margins there. You're also more insulated from the vagaries of, let's say, the LME, and therefore a much more stable flow of cash. So that's very clearly the mandate for Hindalco.
And even Hindalco in domestic market as well is moving towards flat rolled products as well. You're planning to double your capacity. You see the kind of demand that kind of products will have in the domestic market?
Absolutely. So in segments such as building and construction, for example, we see huge demand coming up in the aluminum space. So the idea, and we have said this in the past, is to invest about $1 billion over the next 5 years to grow in the rolled aluminum segment and the extrusion segment in India, and therefore double our quantities in downstream businesses.
I was looking at the Aditya Birla Group in the last 2 years. You have been the most active in M&A space, whether it's Idea, Ultratech, or now Hindalco. Together, you must have invested more than 100,000 crores if you add the value of transactions together. That sets up the entire group for the next 5 years of growth and consolidation, right?
I think so. I think that each of these transactions have been done with a purpose. Each of them is value accretive, if not in the immediate short term, in the medium term for sure. And each of these take the respective businesses a few steps forward in their overarching strategy.
Is it fair to say that now that these inorganic expansions have happened, there will be a consolidation phase, integration phase which comes in, and it will play out on its own over the next 2 to 3 years as integration and scale brings in for each of the companies?
So I must say that there has also been organic growth in the last few years.
For example, CapEx as well.
For example, Hindalco has had pretty substantial organic growth. So has cement. I think the question really is what adds the maximum value.
Yes.
What leads to value creation, and whether organic or acquisitive growth is really a subset of that question.
I was looking at the way it has panned out for you in the entire aluminum business, from being primary aluminum to getting into flat. Now you will get into various maybe aerospace, which is a very high margin business, or for that matter automotive, which over the period of time, currently it would be around 20, move on to 22, and maybe eventually to 30 over a period of a couple of years. When that happens, do you think that the entire balance sheet will hedge itself against the volatility of prices, which normally is associated with aluminum players?
So Hindalco will still be producing primary metal.
True, but it will be selling more of.
Yes, but the proportion of value added, whether it's rolled products overseas or extrusions and rolled products in India, will grow to a much larger size, and therefore the company gets far more insulated from, like I said, the vagaries of the external world or the vagaries of the LME.
Is it fair to say that does the group have enough more headroom for such kind of inorganic expansion and growth, or is it more now would be consolidation, looking at ensuring that the balance sheet not too leveraged, and you are able to build on what you've acquired rather than going inorganically more across?
So I don't think within the group there's any further consolidation to be done. All of that is now done and working well. And like I said again, whether organic, whether acquisitive growth through M&A, really depends on what route of growth creates the most value for our shareholders.
You are across the sectors and for the economy. How do you see the economic growth panning out? Do you see more what do you call brownfield kind of expansions now coming in rather than greenfield expansion? Given the kind of
speak about other people, but we have significant plans for brownfield expansions. For example, in the viscose staple fiber business, we have large investments lined up. Even in the cement business, we have a large investment in Rajasthan, for example. We've just completed a large brownfield and greenfield expansion in Rajasthan. So brownfield is also an important part of the growth mix for us.
And what about cash flows coming in from operation? Do you see that getting robust as we go forward?
Cash flows and health of the balance sheet have been always very important to us. And each of our investments must hit a certain hurdle rate for that investment in terms of returns. Otherwise, we wouldn't go ahead with it. So I see very strong cash flows going forward as well.
We have seen a lot of opportunity coming in the economy because of a lot of, whether you call it the banking sector being very active now, bringing in more SIG companies there. Do you see good opportunities there as well? Is there an opportunity for you to not go for green, but look at those things and pick it up and turn it around, which you're good at?
So we are pursuing one asset, which you probably know, but other than that, there's nothing else that we are aware of in the pipeline that could be of interest to us. And
is that process good enough? Do you see some changes required in that process?
So I think
there has been some pain points which have been there.
Legislation, and any new legislation takes some time before it gets, in a sense, perfected. But I think that the IBC could not have been timed better. I think that it'll do a lot of good for us as the Indian economy and as business in India as well.
As we speak today, we also saw the final approval coming for Idea Vodafone through. Yesterday, the Vodafone management spoke about they plan to finish and complete the deal by end of August. You're optimistic given now the final approval has come in?
Very much so. I think end of August is very much on, and you will soon see a new merge-co starting to operate.
And that would be a bigger challenge in the next few years for you as you integrate operation, because you have integration of Idea Vodafone, Ultratech JP, which is coming in, then Novelis.
JP Ultratech is very much done and very beautifully integrated, if I can say so.
Okay.
And each company is different, the team for each is different. So it's not like it's the same team who's working on each of these. Perhaps the only common person is me.
Yeah, exactly. But
So,
the bandwidth, you also have limited bandwidth as well, right?
Well, I think I'm very fortunate to be supported by very competent and committed teams. And after being, involved intensely at a strategic level, it's they who really carry the burden of implementation.
Mr. Birla, thank you very much for joining us today on Bloomberg Coin. Thank you.
Thank you.